There we go. Perfect.
Just in time.
Okay. Well, Celeste will be back with us in just a second. She had to lock her door, I think, or something. I don't know.
Unlock the door.
Unlock the door. Okay. Usually I think she locks it so the kids can't come in and bug her during the podcast. But yeah, tonight we'll give her a pass. Maybe she's unlocking it instead. So, but yeah, tonight we have Ryan in the hot seat. And I don't know you, Ryan. You know Celeste, and I think she was trying to tell us your last name is pronounced Houston instead of Houston. Is that right?
That's correct. Yep.
Oh man, you have got to struggle with that like all the time. I bet you nobody pronounces it Houston.
Not at the start. They don't.
No.
Not even my kids anymore, and not even my ex-wife. So it's kind of.
Oh, the kids just threw in the towel. Like, all right, we'll just go by Houston.
And my ex-wife goes by Houston's too. So.
That's weird. I wonder if the city's actually pronounced Houston originally and it got changed to Houston because of everybody's like, their accent or something.
I think the Texan accent's kind of
right.
What caused that,
The Texan accent, we kind of, made it sound cooler,
Is that how it works?
Yeah.
Yeah, we could put Celeste on it to ask or to find out, dig around and see how it's really pronounced.
Next time I'm down there, I'll start asking the locals.
Right.
I was gonna say people from New York. There's a Houston Street in New York, so they know.
Yeah.
They know sometimes, but.
Hey, you know what, Ryan? I was born in New York, so.
Oh, yeah.
Like I should know all these answers.
But
I'm gonna figure them out.
There you go.
Well, I once went to the New York airport at JFK, so I should know that too, right? Like somehow osmosis, it should all transfer over.
I saw it in Men in Black once.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
You made the movie.
Well, so where do you live now? You're not in Houston though. You're not in Texas, even though you're housed in Houston. You're not in Houston.
That's right. I live in Ogden, Utah now.
Okay.
I moved here 3 years ago. Yeah.
Okay.
There's a lot of connection there.
Yeah.
That's my hometown.
Where'd you move from?
I used to live in Highland.
Okay, so
just down Highland Alpine, Point of the Mountain area.
Ooh, that's connected to me.
Is it? Yeah.
Yeah, I lived there for 8 years. So
I was there since. I was there 12 years. Yeah.
Nice.
Until we sold the house.
Yeah.
Very nice. Okay, so what took you over to Ogden?
We sold our house when we got divorced, and I just couldn't afford real estate down there anymore. So.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. So obviously you're divorced.
Mm-hmm.
How long have you been divorced or single?
Separated 2017, divorced since January 2018. Okay. So that's 3.5 years almost.
Okay.
Wait, is that right? Wow, that's a long time.
How long were you married?
18 years.
Okay. Yeah. So, and that was I'm assuming you have kids and all that with your ex.
Yeah. When I married her when I was 26 and she was 29 and she had 4 kids already. So I adopted those 4 kids and then we added 2 more. Okay. So I've got 2 daughters that are 17 and 20 now.
Okay. And so you see them pretty often then, the 17 and 20-year-old?
No, the 17-year-old moved to Florida with her mom. So I see her a couple times a year is all. But she does FaceTime frequently. So.
Okay.
And then my daughter she lives in Salt Lake, the 20-year-old, and I see her a couple times a month probably.
Okay.
Like tomorrow I'm going to take her a green machine to clean I guess her cat peed on her bed, so I got to take her something to clean it up with.
See, yet another reason not to have a cat.
Right?
Yeah.
I've got 2 of them.
And they call it the green machine. You'd think if you're cleaning up a mess, they call it the white machine or something. But,
right.
But we don't want any more green.
We don't need anything green.
Yeah, that's not good.
Yeah, especially if it was cleaning up like the green mess or something like that left behind by your cat. So.
And then the kids I adopted, they're still in my life too. So I've got a son in Philadelphia. He's going to med school out there. Great. I have a daughter who married and moved to New Jersey. And I've got a daughter in Orem that has a new granddaughter. I see her once in a while. And I have a daughter that lives down in Sandy she has 2 grandsons. So
when you adopted them, did you also get sealed to them?
Yeah, I got sealed to them before. I mean, when we got married in the temple, and they
Okay.
got sealed to us right away.
Okay.
How old were they at that point?
The oldest was 9, the twins were 8, and the youngest, the son, was 6, Chase.
Okay, so they were still little. So you were their dad. Did they have connection with their other father?
They did not have much connection, no. So they were from West Virginia. That's where they were all born. And then my ex moved out to Utah because he was not, their dad was kind of not involved in their life. And yeah, so.
And he wasn't a member, I take it.
No.
Okay. Was your ex a member before she moved out?
She was before she moved out, but she was not when she was married the first time.
Okay.
So she joined the church after her divorce, I guess.
Interesting. Decided to move to the promised land, make the trek west with the pioneers.
She was going to move to Arizona, and then for some reason they moved to Utah instead. I don't know. So I don't remember the details of that. It was like flipping a coin or something, and they decided to go to Utah instead. So.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And it changed your life forever.
Yep.
Great, huh?
Well, 18 years, that must have been difficult then, going through that process. Was it sort of a sudden thing, or was it just after a while you guys had kind of decided?
No, it was a long, like the divorce itself, we knew it was coming for probably 5 years before. So from 2013 to 2015 or 2018, it was fairly rocky. So
it just kind of became time.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, I won't go into details, but just some things I learned, and I didn't want to, and she wasn't honest about them when I had evidence. And so I just was done with the relationship after that. So.
Yeah, it's hard when they won't come clean, you know, because the thing is they can be like, hey, let's do counseling to try to work this out. But if they're not going to be honest during counseling, it's not going to do any good. Right. So you got to be honest. Yeah.
And that's what she wanted to. She asked me to do counseling once, and I was like, you know what, you can't even be honest face to face. Like, what gets counseling gonna do? So
that was exactly my situation. I'm like, I get it. Okay, counseling. I'm a fan of it. I had been in it for like 4 years at that point, but if they're not going to be honest and open,
right?
I was like in that moment, I'm like, okay, let's be honest. Tell me.
Yep.
You know, the beautiful thing is we have with us again tonight, Dr. John Brailsford, who probably has.
I'm just taking it all in. I'm taking it all in. I'm coming for you, Ryan. I'm coming.
All right.
He's gonna come up with some little plan for you.
I'm really not coming for you, Ryan. You're just fine.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, I think I heard that you're a doctor as well, Ryan. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm a psychologist.
Okay.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So we got 2 psychologists on tonight. So this is a whole lot of mess.
Actually, I'm a therapist with an academic degree, and Ryan will know exactly what I'm talking about. So I have a PhD in family and child sciences. So basically family relations and child lifespan development. But yeah, so I am a marriage and family therapist, actually.
So what is it that you do exactly, Ryan? Kind of explain to all of us the difference.
So the big difference is, I don't know. I don't do any counseling at all. I tried that, and I just didn't feel like I was a very effective or good therapist. So either people would come just a couple times, or they'd always come constantly and never get better. So I just figured I wasn't helping people very much. So I quit doing therapy, and I started just focusing on psych evals. And so that's what I do completely now. I have contracts with maybe 7 different schools where I do a lot of special ed evaluations, like eligibility evaluations. I have 2 or 3 contracts with the state of Utah for competency evaluations, like competency to stand trial. And then I have a few contracts with like drug rehabs, just to do basic psych evals when they get a difficult client.
So when you say competency to stand trial, that's like somebody just murdered someone and they're trying to claim that they were insane or something?
Not necessarily insane at the time of the crime, because actually in Utah, they don't have a not guilty by reason of insanity in Utah. So you can't claim that. What we do is, if they're competent or insane before they're going to trial, if that makes any sense. So let's say they were completely normal when they committed the crime, and then they got locked up and got off their meds or something and started turning psychotic. Like, let's say they were schizophrenic or something, and they become psychotic and delusional, and then they're not able to cooperate with their counsel. So they're not competent to go to trial. So at that point, they have someone come evaluate them. If they're not competent, they either send them to the state hospital or they just send people to teach them and make sure they get the proper medications. And then once they're restored to competency, then they go to trial.
So it's not like the state will just kind of say, well, you're kind of off your meds and off your rocker right now, so we're going to just put you in a psych ward for a while. They're actually going to try and rehab them to a point where they can stay in trial.
Right, where they, if they can. And then if they've tried and they're still not competent, at some point they might dismiss the charges. But
interesting.
So like, let's say there's a guy, like I evaluated a guy with Down syndrome once who burned his mom's kitchen, like just set it on fire because he was mad because she wouldn't let him go to Walmart. And so he got arrested for first-degree felony arson, which is 15 to life in prison. But he obviously didn't know right from wrong. He didn't understand anything about the court process. So someone like that's never going to get restored, if that makes any sense. Like a really low-functioning Down syndrome person. Although if they're higher functioning, sometimes they can be restored. But
so what do they do in a situation like that? I mean, let's be honest. Who hasn't burned down their mom's kitchen in time or three, right? I mean,
I almost did, yeah.
Hold on, I'm gonna switch this.
Walk in the park on a Thursday, right?
Always.
So what do you do in a situation like that where somebody has Down syndrome and they're just,
as far as punishing them, or what?
I mean, do they just say, well, don't get mad at your mom again, or what can you do? I mean, that.
Yeah, good question. Some of them get civilly committed. So there was a case a while back where this guy had stabbed two of his roommates in Salt Lake. And so he got arrested they didn't die. They got arrested for aggravated assault and he went to jail for it. They determined that he was not competent. They tried to restore him to competency at the state hospital and they said that he still wasn't competent and they didn't think they could restore him. And then he got out and went and murdered another roommate about a year and a half later.
Wow. Are you good at like weeding out those who are trying to claim they're not competent when they are? Are you good at?
I feel like I am, but who knows?
Yeah, what is that?
I feel like I am, yeah.
I think that'd be a hard thing. Like, okay, he's acting like he's kind of crazy, but is he really crazy? Trying to figure that out.
I think it's hard to fake crazy because I see him for an hour and a half usually. And if they can't stay consistent through that entire time, I think it's really hard to act crazy for extended periods of time. And people that aren't mentally ill, they like a severe mental illness, they don't know what someone who has a severe mental illness acts like. So you kind of look for things that might be inconsistent, or you look at if they're acting the same when they're with me as maybe the collateral records that the jail gives me. I don't know. You just look for inconsistencies and yeah.
Well,
try to catch them in lies. I don't know.
That one movie where the dude was crazy as all get out, or pretended to be crazy, and at the end, like he even like tricked his own attorney. Do you guys remember that movie?
It's not like Primal or something like that with like
Primal Fear. That's right. Yeah.
I never saw that one. I'll have to watch it.
Ryan, that was like back in the 90s.
Yeah.
I don't watch a lot of movies, so.
So this may be a historic moment on the podcast though, because Celeste actually came up with her own movie quote. Usually it's us saying, hey, have you ever seen that? And Celeste is like,
I didn't say a quote.
Well, yeah, at least a reference though.
It was a plot reference.
If we start talking like Nacho Libre, I could throw out some quotes. If we start talking like while you're sleeping, I mean, I've got lots of movies that I could quote. But you have to keep in mind, I have this tendency to watch things over and over. So certain movies, I know all of it. All about him. So
I had to sit Celeste down and make her watch Forrest Gump for the first time.
Oh,
that's how backed up we are. So anyways, totally off topic, but we checked that one off the list finally. So Celeste has now seen Forrest Gump.
That's a good one.
Yep, I've got it.
Hey, Celeste.
Yeah.
You are the best.
Oh, thank you. I love that movie.
I just wanted to quote something from Nacho Libre.
Yes.
Real quick, someone asked a comment in the chat about someone getting out, the guy that got out after he'd stabbed the people. Usually when they know that they're not going to be restored to competency, they can ask for a civil commitment. So they can't stick them in the state hospital for a legal thing, but they can stick them there involuntarily on a civil commitment. So that's usually what they do. For some reason, they didn't do it with that guy, but they dropped the ball. So.
Gotcha.
That's so sad too.
Yeah.
Now, in a situation like that, do you have to have some sort of liability insurance in case you misdiagnose them, they get out and commit something else and they try and come back on you? It seems like that's kind of a thing in society now. Like, well, who dropped the ball on this one? And let's start looking for people to point the finger at.
Yeah, I think we have immunity in the legal cases, as far as I'm aware. But when it comes to other private evals, yeah, I have to have liability insurance. So all the schools ask for my insurance before they'll let me do the evals and the drug rehabs. They all have to have a copy of my yearly liability insurance. So
interesting. You said you have to as well, John?
Yeah.
So okay.
I think if you have a mental health license of any kind, you're going to have liability insurance as part of it.
If you're practicing, yeah.
Yeah, if you're actively practicing.
When would that actually come up, though? Just out of curiosity. I mean, are you going to be in a family therapy session and somebody come along and say, man, you totally screwed up my wife or my husband, and they're now like totally crazy and it's all your fault? I mean, does that type of thing, people come back and blame their behavior on you?
I mean, sometimes it's because there was legitimate, the therapist hasn't or a psychologist or a psychiatrist hasn't really abided by the rules of their profession, and it's led to some harm. I mean, sometimes it's just a really ugly divorce and the therapist or the psychologist didn't do anything wrong, but they want to fight it out by dragging him or her in to the fray, so to speak. Like my wife cheated on me because my therapist wasn't hard enough on her or something like that. Even though the therapist had no idea she was even cheating at the time, and so but I haven't had to deal with that in my career, but I do know some of my colleagues that have. So
have you ever faced that, Ryan?
Being sued? No. It's rare for a psychologist or a therapist to get sued, but if you're a psychiatrist, they get sued a lot. Like doctors and psychiatrists get sued frequently. But.
All I know is that I've taken my son to a few therapists that probably needed to at least have their license taken away. I'm telling you, I'm like, what is going on with this person? So anyway.
Ryan may know this, but at BYU, I took some courses with, now I'm going to forget his name, but anyway, he was well known for research he did on the effectiveness of therapy. Alan Bergen.
Yeah, Bergen. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was really interesting because, like, even as a doctoral student, I think he studied it. But he found about a third of therapists actually help, and about a third, roughly, really don't make much of a difference, and a third actually hurt, like make the situation worse somehow. And of course, this is back in the 70s. Yeah. I would hope that the training is a little bit better now, plus the approaches that we use, plus just the way we hold therapists accountable is better. But it wouldn't surprise me though if there's still a fairly, like a double-digit percentage that probably make the situation worse, so.
Well, I think it would be tough in your guys' profession to just separate personal opinion versus like your therapy or something. So like you've talked about before, John, having somebody on there, you're like, I just really don't like that person, but yet they're a client or somebody that you're still trying to provide some sort of therapy with before you just fire them as a client,
Mm-hmm.
So that would be tough for me. I would just.
Right. Yeah, the whether I like them or not, you kind of got to throw out the window. If I don't like them because they're being incredibly abusive to their spouse, then I can fire them, or I can actually, if they're abusing a child, I have a duty to report that. But yeah, if it's just I don't like you, that's something I need to work on probably.
Yeah. Well,
I'm sure Ryan has not liked everyone he's ever worked with.
Yep, that's true.
Oh, he's a kind guy. I'm sure he's liked a major majority of them.
Yeah. No, I'm actually very mean.
Oh, whatever. Oh my gosh.
Well, I can imagine that you get to a spot where you've got a client, you're just like, oh no. You look at your calendar for the day, you're like, oh, that hour is going to be fun. So, but Ryan, you don't have a lot of repeat clients, right? You're kind of more of the. Now you said you go to schools too, right? And do this? You're
That's right.
in
Yeah.
the school system. So what does that look like? Are you looking for people that are like on the edge, like, hey, this guy's been a problem. We're afraid he might show up and shoot up the school or something?
No.
Like
No.
Okay.
It's just kids that are struggling in school, and so their parents or their teachers refer them for testing to see if they have learning disorders. And so I
Kind
just
of like if you want to get like a 504 or an IEP.
Yeah, or an IEP. Yeah. So
And even if you have your own paperwork, the school still does their own testing. I'm like, I've
sometimes,
got papers
usually.
right here. They're like, we got to do our own. I'm like, all right, whatever.
Yeah, I've worked in a couple RTCs for troubled kids, and very often we would hire out psychologists to come in and do an evaluation. And when I worked at Logan River Academy, most of our population was autism spectrum kids. And so, but some of them hadn't had an official diagnosis. And so there's a psychologist here locally that we would get to come in and evaluate. So, I mean, I admire Ryan, because if I had to do that every day, like for a career, yeah, I would like be banging my head on the wall at the end of the night. Because it's not exactly, I mean, I'm sure for you, Ryan, it can probably be pretty fascinating sometimes.
I don't know.
But for me, it's pretty tedious.
Yeah, since we have smartphones, have made it easier to handle it. Getting on the, while the kids are doing their math or their whatever testing, I can scan
that's
internet for stuff. Yeah.
Nice.
So now this sounds kind of like piecework, though. Like it's kind of, as you get somebody who pops up who has a need, that's when you're called, right? So
yeah.
Do you have lulls in your work where you're like, I don't have anybody for the next 2 days or whatever, so what do I do with myself?
Not very often. In the summer, it does slow down. So I get slammed.
Uh-oh.
I think
we just lost you.
We lost your audio.
Yeah, he's telling us all about the summer. He's got a great story about the summer,
but can he not hear us either? We can't hear you.
Yeah, we lost you.
We lost you.
You're just gonna have to start over.
Yeah. Nope, still nothing. Well, while he's putting that back together,
I will say I've actually done that as part of my career, because I mean, therapists can get authorized to do that. You just have to go through jump through some hoops. But I actually in Vegas used to evaluate sex offenders. So,
oh goodness gracious!
Yeah, that was interesting for sure.
That's tough.
Yeah.
That would be.
And basically our decisions, and then I worked with a psychologist who would also sign off on it. But we, it was pretty, it was rough, because, based on that evaluation, the decision could be pretty catastrophic. Can't hear you, Ryan.
Yeah.
So I would think something like that. I mean, I live in Portland, where there's always like controversy about everything. And I
there
know
we go.
that.
Oh,
all
right, he's back.
Nice.
Okay.
For some reason, my headphones quit working, and they won't even.
Thanks, Ryan. Thanks for coming back, man. I only did a few dozen of those. There's only so many I was going to be able to talk about. You've got probably hundreds under your belt. So,
but we want to hear about your summer. Like, you're about to talk about your summer, and then you
and you were going on. You could you were telling this great story, but nobody could hear it. So
yeah, so I just saying I get slammed during the fall because all the new evals come in, and you have to retest the same kids every 3 years to see if they still qualify. And so you have to retest all the kids, and then you get bottlenecked up until December. You get tons and tons of referrals. But then in the winter, I still have a lot of referrals from special ed. But once school's out, those taper off. And then I start doing a lot more of the competency evals. So
is that?
Oh, go ahead.
Do you just get paid per on those, or do you have a contract where it's steady pay and they just, if we need you, we'll call you, but you're getting paid the same either way?
I do. Yeah, I don't do salary. I do a contract with them that's per hour or per evaluation. So the state will give you a certain amount regardless of how long it takes for the evaluations. And then the schools, I just charge an hourly rate.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, That's great. So the schools will give you an hourly rate, but the others won't. So is it enough work then to keep you like feeling? I mean, I don't have any idea. This is not my sphere. I'm just kind of trying to put this together in my head. So it pays well enough to obviously support the family type thing and get going. It's not like contract work where you're a plumber and like, well, didn't get any work this week, but hopefully next week sort of thing, right?
No, I stay busy and it pays well. And yeah.
Plus, he's a photographer. He's an amazing photographer. So he's got that up his sleeve too. And he goes around and like finds crazy coins all the time. He's making a meal on that one too.
Yeah.
Got lots going on.
So awesome. So now you've been single for 3 years and you've been kind of going down this road. I noticed, I think I've seen some of your pictures. You post them, I believe, on like the dating groups, kind of like, hey, this is a sunset or whatever photography thing you got going on. I always look at things and think, okay, that would make an amazing picture. And then I take a picture of it and I'm like, okay, that looks like Picasso took the picture because it's like all distorted and weird. I have no ability to take a good picture. So I love that stuff. But is that kind of something that for you is important to share with everybody on the groups to kind of like, all right, I'm looking for somebody who may kind of fit this bill, who's kind of wanting to be artistic with me? Or, I mean, what are you kind of looking for out there in this 3 years you've been going?
Yeah, as far as the photography stuff, I don't share it much in the groups. I don't even know if people know I'm a photographer. I do share it a lot on my personal page and my Instagram and things like that. But
I could have swore I've seen some that you've shared on there before. Was that not you?
I don't know. Maybe.
He doesn't usually do landscapes. He's more like modeling. Like
I do both.
Oh, do you?
Okay. I know somebody used to send like, they would have like a whole post of like, these are my last 10 pictures or something. And they were great. They looked fantastic, but like, that's way beyond me. Thanks. I'll steal it for a screensaver or something like that. But you know, that's as far as I'll go.
Yeah, I don't do that. I don't know.
Okay. So is your ex then, I mean, you guys aren't like bumping into each other on the groups and things like that, are you?
Oh no, she went inactive probably 2, 3, 4 years before we got divorced, or before 2013 even. So
okay,
she's not active at all. Basically left the church. So.
Gotcha.
I go out again?
Nope. Yeah, you froze up there for just a second, so that's okay.
We're not
56K dial up. We'll get it going. Okay.
I like that idea though, Everett, that you just kind of express your interests and that you know, people just start to identify with that. Ryan, have you noticed, like, as you just kind of put your stuff out there, do you feel like it kind of draws in women that are compatible or anything? Not that you do it for that reason. Or, I think if we're doing it for that reason, that feels a little bit manipulative and probably could backfire. But
yeah, I don't think so. I don't know. I've never had anyone hit me up and be, that's a beautiful picture, let's go out. So, I don't know. I don't think so.
They're thinking it, Ryan. I know it.
There are people that do share really pretty photos that they've taken, and they do get girls or guys that reply and be like, oh, that's so beautiful, and where'd you take that, and where do you live? And it does open up a communication of sorts. So
yeah,
it's an option.
I better start.
Yeah, Ryan, get out there, start posting.
Okay, I'll do it.
So have you gone on many dates or had many opportunities to meet people? I mean, for those of us out in like I live in Portland, Celeste is in Dallas, John's also in Utah, but we all kind of look at Utah like, okay, guys, you're in the dating mecca as far as like LDS standards go. So you've got like singles boards and opportunities, right?
Yeah, Logan is barely Utah. It's almost Idaho.
Oh, well, yeah.
Well, Idaho's pretty much the same though.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Right. Idaho is so different than Utah. Yeah.
Back to your question, Everett.
Yes. Yeah, you two are in the area where there's definitely more people to choose from than say.
Or they're within an hour and a half drive.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yep. So have I been on a lot of dates?
They're here too.
Yeah. What have you been doing since your divorce? How's that been going? Tell us a little bit about where things are at right now.
So the first year after my divorce, my one daughter moved to Florida. My other daughter stayed with me in Highland so she could graduate with her class. So lived there for the first year, did not do any dating at all that first year. I don't know. I was on the dating apps and trying to meet up with people, and I wasn't matching with very many. And I don't know. I just didn't really date at all. And it wasn't for lack of trying, but for about a year I didn't date. I did finally go on a date with a lady who asked me out to a work function that she had, though I wasn't interested in her, but I went as, to have fun with her or whatever. And then I went on another date with someone, and it's someone I used to work with years ago. Not work with, but she worked for DCFS, and I did evals for them. And so I knew her from that. And so we went out on a date. She saw me on one of the apps and messaged me. And then we dated for about 8 months, probably. Then we broke up for a few months. Then we got together again for a couple more months, and then she broke up again. So. And then most recently, I dated a lady down in Provo for about 2 months, but then she had some things she has to work on. So that
was that the conclusion of your psych eval for her? She's got some things to work on.
I was wondering if y'all you're talking with people and online and stuff, and you're like, I'm just going to try to figure out if y'all have issues beforehand.
Or which issues? Everyone has issues.
Yeah, that's true.
Right.
You're sitting out there on a date. You're like, I'm pretty sure you're cluster B, so I don't know if it's going to work out too well.
I don't go out with cluster B. So.
You don't do the cluster, huh?
I told you guys. Yeah, cluster B is a big no-no.
Yeah.
Schizophrenia might be more interesting and less damaging than that, but
and you can medicate it.
Right? That's true.
Right.
That's
yeah, true.
Can't medicate a personality disorder. So.
Right.
Yeah.
Very true. So, okay, you're in Utah though. Have you been to any of the single adult wards?
First of all, I got divorced when I was 44, and you can only go to those till you're about 45. And so, yeah, I just barely turned 44 right after the divorce. But I was at a family ward. I had my daughter wasn't going to church, but potentially she could go with me. And I had a calling. I taught Sunday school there for the youth. And so I just opted not to go to the singles ward.
So are the singles ward there?
Out.
Are they just mid-singles age then? They don't have like a single adult ward that's just kind of more inclusive age-wise?
I think it's 31 to 45. I don't know. I'm not 100% sure because I've never gone to one, but I know after you're 45, you're not supposed to attend anymore.
Yeah. Once you're old like me, you're out.
Me, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Actually, probably.
Don't even start. Don't even start.
They gave Celeste a cane and told her like to hit the road. Like, hobble your way on out of here. You're old.
I know, like us three will be out, but Everett still be hanging in there with the youngins.
Right. Well,
the last two people I dated would still be in those groups too. But.
Yes. Well, so the topic that we have for you tonight that you wanted to discuss was kind of overcoming these obstacles with dating. And it doesn't sound like you've had a whole lot of dating experiences, like long-term relationships, maybe a couple months here, a couple months there since your divorce. But what do you seem to be running into? This was kind of a topic that you chose. So tell us a little bit about what you're running into.
So the other relationships I was in, I consider them long-term. The one was 8 months, almost a year total. It's just frustrating because we get into this relationship, things are going well, we both like each other, and due to situations from her previous relationship marriage, it's a really complicated situation where she married someone from outside the country, not a citizen, and so there's a possibility that once he can get a passport for her kid, he can take her out of the country and never bring him back. And so because that's looming over her head, she doesn't want to get into a relationship with someone, get married, and then all of a sudden she has to move out of the country to try to be around her child again. So that was one of the situations. And then
I don't know if she lived in Jamaica, or I might want to go with her, or something.
Jamaica.
I don't know, for a while.
If it's at one of the resorts.
Yeah. Let's go, honey.
I'd say she made enough money for that. I would definitely.
Yeah, my ex-husband's from Spain. Okay. Yeah, let's go.
Let's do it.
Till your child's 18, let's just go.
Let's just say it wasn't one of those fun destinations.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
We don't want those then.
We might be moving to Syria or something. You're like, yeah, okay.
Or Nicaragua or something.
Right.
No offense to Nicaraguans and Syrians, but.
Right. Yeah. Some war place or something. You're like, yeah. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay. But I mean, I can see where she's like, this is potentially like looming over me, but that's also kind of like cutting a relationship on a hypothetical. You know what I mean? Like it may happen, but it may not too. So did you get to a point with her where you're just like, well, I just don't think it's going to work because we're sort of in this holding pattern? Or did she just say like, it's not fair to you? Like, how did that end?
Yeah, she felt it wasn't fair to me. So like she wanted to work with it. She's just not sure if it's ever going to be feasible to be together.
And how old was her child again?
He was 5 when we started dating, 6 now.
Okay. So this isn't like he's 16. It could go on for another 2 years.
Right. And she's afraid that she's even afraid that the ex will try to kidnap him and take him out of the country.
Oh gosh.
Make him out. So.
Does the ex have some sort of like parenting time with the child, or is he like on a restraining order, or like what's that situation look like?
He's got a restraining order. She has a restraining order against him, but yeah. But he still has visitation. They meet at a place and they never have to see each other. They do the transfers at a specific location.
That's rough.
With professionals that take the kid and take it to the other car, that kind of thing.
So that's a pretty specific issue to overcome, and that one is a tough one.
Yeah. That one's not going to be overcome until the situation.
That one's kind of tough. What was the other scenario? I know you said there was 2.
The other scenario was I don't want to get into details, but
you don't do details.
Just past relationships. I guess feeling responsible for the divorce in a lot of ways, and regretting, I guess, that she'd cut off that relationship through divorce. So just having a hard time getting over her ex, I guess. And then she'd been in another relationship between her ex and me, and she had to resolve some issues with that one as well.
So when you say she was feeling kind of responsible for her divorce, was this like?
Well, she was, because she filed for it. So.
Yeah,
okay.
That's interesting, because you can feel guilty if you're the one who's filed, even if you weren't to do with the actual cause of why you want to file, if that makes any sense.
And that relationship had deteriorated, and she was thinking that if they got divorced, they'd somehow get some cooling down time kind of a thing, and then eventually get back together.
Okay.
I mean, that's a weird way to maybe approach a divorce, but that was her thought process. And then it didn't. Then he just moved right on, and then that was hard to deal with that.
Did you know that about 8 to 10% of people who get divorced remarry? I didn't realize that.
Remarry the person that they've divorced?
Oh, marry the same person?
Yeah, about 1 in 10.
Wow.
Remarry the person they divorced.
Interesting.
I don't know if that's totally up to date, but yeah, a few years ago that was.
My grandpa and grandma were married 4 times, I believe.
What?
They account for 3% of that statistic right there.
They went far beyond the number there.
Yeah. Their nicknames were Fire and Ice, and they just kept getting divorced and remarried. That's kind of a love story, though. It's one way.
It is a love story. It was interesting, and growing up, hearing all the stories, it was just part of who they were. And then once my grandpa passed on, my grandma's always like, I don't know why I remarried him. Like she'd have like these little negative moments because she was kind of losing it a little bit. And all of a sudden she was the grouchy grandma. And anyway, it was funny. But they went back and forth for years, I guess. But they were always together as far as I remember.
I love it.
Yeah.
Human behavior.
I know.
So
that's interesting.
Yeah.
Huh. Well, I mean, in my mind, when you first said, she felt guilty, I was thinking, well, maybe she had an affair or something, so she was kind of blaming herself. And in that type of a situation, I might say, well, that's kind of a red flag scenario, like, do you want to be with somebody who has maybe had that? Then you start getting into the question of forgiveness and, all of that. But if it's just she feels guilty for filing, being the one that's filed, that's tough.
Yeah.
So I would imagine, Ryan, that you probably feel a little snake bitten sometimes, you know, that you find these, you know, what really seem to be really great women, but it's just like the stars don't align. Like, you know, I won't use any other cliches, but yeah, but basically it just won't work out, right?
Yeah, I did feel it, like, especially the first one, because we were together for me, that's a long time to be dating someone. So yeah, that was hard to deal with. And we actually broke up twice, like I said, and it was kind of the same reason both times. But then she thought, well, maybe it'll work, and then she realized it's not going to work because just so crazy and so just so manipulative. And the courts are kind of giving him, you know, I read a thing the other day that said something about how women who have an abusive spouse, if they bring that up in their divorce or in their child custody type hearings, they said something like 78% of the time, the abusive parent eventually gets the child. And they're talking about how it's just because the courts are assuming that the woman is turning the kid against the dad, when it's the other, where the kid just doesn't like the dad because the dad's abusive or whatnot. And so they look at parental alienation stuff, and at some point, the abusive fathers get custody, which is insane to me. But you know.
Well, how much of that though is hyperbole? I mean, I kind of feel like, and John, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I sort of feel like that's almost a buzzword now for a lot of people. Like, well, I'm just going to throw out abuse and call it abuse. And like, you know, sometimes people,
I mean, it can go both ways, you know, both abuse, parental alienation, all that stuff. I think there's a lot of legitimate abuse and parental alienation that just absolutely gets ignored. And I think there's a lot of it that actually does get figured out and they do the right thing. But yeah, sometimes it's a crapshoot. It almost depends on the judge and how savvy they are and how intuitive they are, and then and Ryan would know this, but how many evaluators and attorneys and everybody gets involved, and they all have their own little motives on why they're trying to win or lose. And what gets lost in all that is what's actually happening. You know, like what is actually in the best interest of this kid. You know?
The courts don't go by best interest anymore. At least her judge doesn't. They focus more on father's rights over the best interest for the kid.
Well, and in a way that's a backlash, because for many years, especially in Utah, father's rights just got trashed in most cases. But then notice what happens. There's like this overcorrection on the freeway, you know, and we go off into the woods on the other side.
But that's what happens in society. We can never come and meet in the middle where it's safe and balanced. It's always like, okay, we're on one extreme, so we're going to swing to the complete opposite, which is just as bad as the one we just came from. But there's no way to kind of stop at middle ground. I almost think that that's Satan. He's like, I don't want you all in the middle doing kumbaya and making things work. No, if you're going to swing, I'm just going to keep pushing you so you go past the middle and go way
clear
off
to
on
the other side. Yeah. Yep. And we do that in relationships too, where one will go to an extreme and the other one will take the other extreme. It's almost like we camp out at the opposite end of the spectrum. And so when I work with people, I don't know how you do this, Ryan, but I like to see balance, you know, and even if only one of them will do it, and then just see if the other one will join them there.
Yeah.
But don't you think sometimes, because I always use like a teeter-totter as an example in my marriage, I felt like my ex was so far one direction that I almost had to go opposite to keep the balance. Like if I kind of stayed middle ground, which is more my temperament, it was like lopsided. Like I almost had to kind of go extreme just to kind of feel like there was a balance. And maybe that's not accurate. Maybe that probably wasn't the best thing to do. But for me, that's where I felt emotionally I had to kind of like, you are way out there. So I kind of have to pull way back in here just to kind of keep things
safe. As I'm sure Ryan will tell you, that there are some disorders and some ways of thinking that will just never join you in the middle.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Cluster B personality disorders being some of them, you know, and thankfully I still like to think that's a minority of people, although some days I wonder, but yeah, and in that case, you can be balanced all you want. I think that what that reveals is those who just can't join you there, and then, now you got a decision to make. So
Yeah.
So you've had these kind of extreme cases where, you know, one's going to like take off out of the country and the other one's like totally feeling guilty. I mean, I guess when I look at the topic for tonight and I think of obstacles to overcome when you're dating, I think, all right, well, you know, maybe she's struggling being a member of the church and I'm a solid member of the church. And so, you know, there's kind of a little bit of disconnect there. Or maybe it's a long distance relationship, right? And she's like, I don't know how I'm feeling about that. Like, what kind of things for you would be acceptable and what would not? I mean, if you found somebody that lived on the East Coast, for example, and you had to date them for a while, would that be like, sorry, it's an obstacle, I don't want to do it?
It depends on if they can relocate. Yeah, it would depend if they're able to relocate, because my business is here. It took a lot of years to build it up, and it's running well now. And if I quit now and had to go build it up again, I'd have no income for a year and a half. You know, I mean, it'd be hard.
It's not a salaried position.
Yeah, and so, yeah, I don't know. If she was rich, I guess I could. If she is rich, I could just move there, and I'd had time to wait until, you know, to build up my business. I could handle something like that, but that's not usually the case. So,
did you ever used to watch the Chappelle Show? Have you ever seen that before?
A few times, not a lot.
Years ago, he had a skit that he did where he married Oprah because she was like a billionaire, you know, and she's all at work all day, and he's there like getting a massage from her personal masseuse, and he's just like every like second or something, he's just flipping back an extra bill as a tip. He's just like, I got money all over the place. Like, that's the way to do it. Just marry into that, right?
You got a sugar mama.
Right.
I could marry Oprah, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
In Oprah. All right.
Yeah. Well,
it seems like in a lot of relationships, because you see them on the pages all the time, all the singles pages, that you're like, it's like there are certain obstacles that people are like, I'm just not going to go there. I don't want to fight that battle. I don't want to exert that energy to overcome that situation. Some of them are very, very valid. Like if you're like, I can't move, she can't move, or vice versa, like there's no sense in moving forward if nobody can relocate. But there's also people that are like, all things are possible with God. So every obstacle can be overcome. So it's on those sides. Like you see people on both sides just like, well, I've never even tried for that. And other people are like, well, anything's possible. So where do we land on that? Like, I think that the Lord can do anything, but I think he doesn't take away agency. And so I don't think he gets in the mix of that. And I also think that maybe when he says all things are possible, maybe it's us not necessarily getting exactly what we're wanting, but maybe being able to handle the situation and on the other end come up, you know, better off than we would have otherwise. But what are y'all's thoughts on that?
What do you think, Ryan?
I guess I'm more of a pragmatic person, so I would look at if I saw something I didn't think was going to work out, I wouldn't even pursue, or, you know, because I just don't think it would work out.
So are you like a one date move on kind of guy? If you're like, this person's just, I can tell right now this doesn't work for me, and move on?
Yeah, if I can tell, I would move on. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't date that much. I mean, I guess I could go on dates all the time, but to me, my time's precious and valuable, or whatever. I like doing certain things. I have to work a lot. And so if I'm going to go out, I only want to go out with someone that I think might be potentially someone that I could be with, if that makes sense. So I think I screen out a lot of people before going on dates, I guess.
Yeah.
The hard part of that is even before you date them, we're already kind of set up to really want it to work really bad. And so what that would do is make it hard to let go. Like even when it's clear that I need to let go, you know, it's like, you need to let go. And it's just like, man, like with you, I put 8 months into this. Like I've taken that precious time and really invested a lot in it. Do you ever feel that way? Kind of like, it's tempting to want to hang on even when the stars are not aligned.
Yeah, I think so. And like I said, in that 8 month relationship I had, like I said, it was a year total, but I think I was just so invested in it that I was saying things like, I don't know, if he goes to out of the country and takes the kid and you have to move there, maybe we could still have a relationship, or maybe we'd see each other in the summers or something. And then once the son was old enough to move back to the States or something on his own, you know what I mean? I don't know. I was exploring a lot of different things that I thought could potentially work, but then.
But I don't think
we could just live apart for 13 years and,
Right.
What's 13 years in eternity, right?
Well, honestly, okay, if we're gonna seriously think on an eternal perspective, what's 13 years? But I do think it's important though, Ryan, that you do kind of consider the options. Because if you were just to walk away and be like, this ain't gonna work, obviously, and just like turn and leave from it, like, what if there was a way to make it work? You know what I'm trying to say? I think it's okay to go through all the options. It's okay to explore. Even at the end, if you're like, none of those would ever have worked, but at least I gave it some thought.
Yeah, and I feel I did that with that relationship. So, and the other that relationship, if she ever got things working, or let's say he got deported or something like that, maybe it would work out at some point in the future. I mean, we're friends or whatever. And the other one too, if she can get her stuff worked out, we'll probably go out again, but who knows, like we're not on unfriendly terms by any means. So.
Well, help me understand something here. So if he grabs the kid and takes off to wherever he's from, I mean, wouldn't that be kind of like kidnapping and they would go after the kid? So why would she just move over there? Like, well, I guess I'll just move to that country. Do they not have extradition laws or something?
No, not to the country that he's from.
Okay.
So she's talked to lawyers from The Hague and everything. I mean, once a kid gets taken, and there's very little chance you're going to get him back.
Wow.
So then she'd have to move over there and be a part of that,
if she wanted to somehow be involved in his life. Yeah.
And even then, I mean, if she's got a restraining order here, let's say she moves over there, he takes the kid and goes to wherever. I mean, is he just going to be like, oh, okay, I guess you're living here now. We'll do 50-50 parenting time. Like,
yeah, probably not. I don't know. Probably not. But
yeah,
that's a crazy situation.
So before you marry someone you're going to have kids with, make sure that their country of origin has an extradition agreement with the United States of America.
Exactly.
Good thing to check off the list, right?
Yes, I totally forgot about that. We got to remember that.
So during this 8 months, year process with this person, were you feeling like, okay, I think this is the one, or were you kind of just figuring it out still, like, well, I'm just enjoying the ride and we'll just kind of see where it ends up, and then it just didn't end up where you wanted to go? Because I think most people at this point, especially in our stage of the game, like marriage is kind of on your mind pretty quick. So you're dating somebody a month or two and you're starting to like think of logistics, like, all right, where are we going here? What's happening? So along that process, did this kind of not come up at the beginning? You've already said if there was something right off the bat where there's an incompatibility, you just wouldn't go down that road. But you went quite a ways down this road.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah. I just didn't. I don't know. What was the question again? I wasn't.
Well, just essentially like during the 8-month process.
Yeah.
Did you not kind of come to the conclusion like, okay, this is not going to work out? Because you mentioned at the beginning, like if I start dating somebody and I realize there's an incompatibility, it's just not worth your time.
Right.
You spent a lot of time.
Yeah. So with that, it's things change every so often with the court. So if you get taken to court and then something changes, like for example, she had to get a U.S. passport for the kid. So now she's in possession of it. He can't have it. But then what's the next step? Maybe she's going to take her to court again. Then he gets access to the passport. It's just things change and the situation changed and the court and the legal system changed to the point that it was not worth to her. It wasn't worth the risk to put me through that. So.
Okay.
Which there's a level of maturity to do that, to just say, hey, this isn't fair to you.
Right.
That's hard. That's a hard thing when you feel like you've come to somebody that you're kind of wanting to consider for the rest of not just your life, but eternity when we're in the church, right? And then you have to say, well, the right thing to do is let go. So
how do you come to that though? Like, because it's almost like you said, Ryan, it was really a hard struggle. You thought about all the possible options, but what was it that you finally were like, okay, this
So it wasn't me that came to that decision. Yeah. So it's her that broke it off both times. So we just talked about it, about all the concerns she had, and just decided it wasn't going to work. So
yeah, that's rough.
That's where I think it's important. Like what I'm noticing about your situation is to leave it on good terms, you know, because what you're saying is, yeah, who knows if we can't come back around to that, you know, not that we're going to wait around for years and years for that to work out. But at the same time, we're going to go date, we're going to go meet other people. But, you know, if we find a situation, you know, if, you know, her ex-husband trips and falls off a bridge and shoots himself in the back of the head accidentally on his way down, yeah. Then, you know, maybe all of a sudden possibilities become real, you know, and so maybe a little bit of that miracle dream, maybe we don't need to let go of that to move on, you know what I mean? So,
and it's easier to move on, I think, once I get into a new relationship too. So like when I started dating the other lady, it helped me let go of the previous relationship a lot. And I'm just
I think sometimes those next relationships are almost for that. It's not because we were meant to be with them either. It's almost to just have them remind us that, you know what, you can fall in love with someone else. Yeah. You could have a life with someone else, and it could be beautiful in other ways that are just as good as what you thought you had before. So,
yep. And everyone has their strengths and weaknesses and things you like about them and things you don't like, things that you have to overlook. But
sure.
Like if you had some lessons you've learned from these, you know, kind of the love, you know, love lost, you know, what are some of the things, how did it change you? Like, what are some of the things how did it affect you, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Well, in the short term, it was very hard and sad and depressing, and it's really hard to deal with. But I guess you get to the point you're wondering if you want to risk it again. I think a lot of people go through that. And I think it's worth it, even though it's painful every time you get broken up with, and you're always gonna get broken up with until you find the one, right? So if you're dating, you're gonna get broken up with a lot, I think, or break up with people a lot. So it's just a part of the game, I think. But
yeah, part of the criteria for the one is that they don't break up with you.
Right.
That's a very important part.
Funny how that works, isn't it?
I have an ex-mission companion that I was talking to about a year ago. And he has completely gotten out of the dating game. He's like 49 probably.
Oh.
And he's just not even interested in dating because he doesn't like that heartbreak. So he said, I can't deal with that. And so he's going to be single the rest of his life because he can't handle the breaking up part of things. But so I think, yeah.
Go ahead, Ryan. I didn't mean
to. Just I think it's important not to let the hurt prevent you from taking risks, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because like Christina, I've quoted this 10,000 times, but it's like, if your guy's number 100 or your girl's number 100, if you give up at 99 or 98, you know, like I understand, like no one wants their heart hurt. And I know that it's painful and it can hurt our self-esteem and it can do a lot of things, make us wonder if we could ever trust someone. I mean, there's all that goes into it. But I think to just full on give up and be like, I'll just be single forever. It's tough. It's a tough place. I think that's more miserable than attempting and getting your heart hurt, I guess. I don't know. That's crazy. I feel bad for whoever that is.
Yeah, me too. I don't want to be single the rest of my life. So
me neither. My mom has been single since I was 6.
Wait, what?
I said my mom has been single since I was 6.
Since you were 6.
And I love my mom, but I just think she's an amazing person. And she should have had someone all these years loving her and caring for her and being devoted to her. And so that is something I'm like, when I was going through a divorce, I'm like, I'm not going to not do that. I'm going to get out there and I'm going to try and find someone else. And because she deserves to be happy. And so I had to kind of convince myself that I deserved that as well. So,
and it's not that you can't be happy single, because I think you can, but for me, I think it's more fulfilling to be in a loving relationship. So.
It almost seems that the challenges we face either have sort of a hardening effect or a softening effect. you know? And I guess the difference between the two, part of it can be how severe it is. I mean, I've seen, obviously doing therapy, people so devastated by things that no one could handle. Like I couldn't even handle a tenth of what they've been through. But generally, I think it really, a lot of it's up to us. You know, am I going to let that harden me or soften me? And I know in my own case, it's done both. You know, there have been times where it really hardened me. I really felt cut off emotionally from really my fellow human beings, which is rough when you're a therapist. I would almost have to really warm myself up for my clients and my kids, basically. Those were the two groups of people. But I think what you're saying, Ryan, is I don't want to let it harden me to the point where I turn away from the possibility of having that in my life. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I guess another thing, as far as breaking up, to me, it's not hard to break up with someone if they don't like you. Like, that's fine. Like, who wants to be with someone that doesn't like you? That wouldn't work. But it's harder, I think, to break up when you are getting along and things are going well and you do mesh very well. And then you have to break up because of circumstance. I mean, that's harder for me to deal with than just breaking up because they don't like me, right? So
yeah, because it's like if that obstacle wasn't there,
right,
then things would be totally different.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's hard.
What do you do in a situation like that? Like after your ex is like, you know, it's been 8 months to a year and she's just like, it's just not going to feasibly work. Do you kind of go into your shell a little bit? Like, all right, I'm not even going to look, or I'm not even going to kind of take time to get online and post or anything. Like, I'm just going to kind of hibernate. What do you do?
No, I'm constantly looking to find people to go out with. So I don't know.
How do you look?
I match with people, but then conversations either they don't respond or I don't, you know, either it fizzles out or I don't know. But I'm constantly looking for someone to, like, I'm on several dating apps.
Okay, so is your main method of searching for somebody on like, what is it, match.com or not match.com? What's the
Mutual match.
Mutual.
I'm on a lot of them. So, but yeah, for me, that's the main thing because I work alone. I don't interact with a lot of people. I'm self-employed. I work from home a lot of times nowadays with COVID. I can do evals through the computer, live alone with my 2 cats. I don't know. Like, I don't see a lot of people. My ward, there's not eligible people my age to marry, you know, I don't know.
Do you get in? I mean, you're in Utah. I mean, there's all kinds of activities and like things going on. Do you ever get involved in any of that and kind of go out to dances or whatever?
So I've been to a couple dances and those were just weird to me. I don't know. I didn't like them. It felt like junior high school again. I don't know.
They are a little bit, but here's the thing. This is what I always tell people when they complain about like going to the activities, because there are a lot of like, you show up there and you kind of stick your head in, you're like, are you kidding me? And then you leave, right? Like, I've gone to dances that are like New Year's Eve dances and stuff. I'm like, oh my gosh, why am I here? But the weird thing is, if there's like a few good, I hate to use the term normal people, but people, you know what I'm talking about, they show up and they stick around, then other people will show up and be like, oh, okay, there's someone else here that's normal too. And it's almost like you sort of stick out a little more because you kind of like, you're the light in the crowd a little bit, if that makes sense. You know what I'm trying to say nicely here? So
yeah, I get it.
I've been to some of those dances and I gotta tell you, man, like, I have never seen so much dead energy in a room sometimes.
Yeah.
And yet and then people say, well, I don't go to them because everybody just, it just doesn't seem fun, you know. But what I say to people, no, that's perfect, because who's going to stand out, you know? So go with your high energy and, you know, and look for high energy and you narrow it down from, you know, the 50 women in the room to the 5, you know?
True.
So
well, the funny thing is, the reason why it's kind of a lot of that dead energy is the people who are the kind of the normal people or the great energy or however you want to term it, they show up, they stick their head in, they look around, then they leave. And I'm like, you know what? We need you. Like go there and be that, and more people will start coming.
Yeah.
So I should sit by the door.
Yeah, well, I can't, I've been to dances before where, they sit by the door, that's fine. They're the wallflower, like, what am I doing here? But, it's almost like the Celeste principle, right? You date 99 people and it's 100 person. What if you go to a dance and you happen to be there one time, just like biting your teeth and kind of like, all right, I'm just going to kind of grit it and bear it. And then that one person that's perfect for you shows up and she's like, oh man, all right, I'm going to give this a try. And you happen to be there. If you're not there when they happen to give it a try, what's going to happen, right? At some point, someone's got to break the cycle, and like normal people have to go and like kind of just be there. It's tough, I know, but.
All right, that means, Ryan, that you've got to go to the next dance and then post pictures that you were actually there. You want to see it.
I'm a fairly introverted person, so I don't like dances at all. Not even in high school, I didn't like them. So, but I don't mind activities where you're interacting and doing stuff. And I have seen some of those that have come up. I've been not doing them because of COVID, but now that I'm vaccinated and all that, I think, I'd be more likely to go to some of those, I think.
Yeah.
Seems like Utah's got quite a few of those activities going on. I see those things popping up all over the place. So
I guess Taco Tuesday, and I guess they go up to the hot springs, Crystal Hot Springs. I don't know. There's things
they go
that
to
happen.
lava too.
I can't. It's lava.
Lava.
Lava is not a word.
But it is
like punishable by like heavy jail like time or something. Lava.
Like Diantha says, lava.
Run your fingers down a chalkboard. It's so terrible when people say lava. Okay.
Anyway. When you were using that metaphor, I thought, so my mission, I had a companion and he always wanted to walk fast. And it was in Barcelona, Spain. And it's like San Francisco. It's all steep. It's like hills and stuff. And I'd be like, why are we walking so fast? And he's like, there might be a dream investigator up ahead and we're going to miss him if we're not walking fast. And I go, well, what if he's behind us? Slow down, And he thought about it and he actually agreed with me. We ended up slowing down a little bit. And, I think people tell us, they send us the message, you got to go to the dances. You got to be on all the, dating sites and all this stuff. And I used to believe that, after my first divorce, I was like a maniac with that stuff. And it was fun. It was great, just dating all the time, dating, but I don't know if that's the key. I just don't believe that anymore. I just feel like we will find each other. And it might be on a dating site. Maybe I need to get on there at some point, but you know what? It might be at the grocery store. I don't know. And maybe, I guess what I'm saying is maybe we just need to work on ourselves, have a close relationship with God, and then just do the best we can and just say, God, if I'm missing something, and if I'm not in a place where she's going to be, will you just arrange it? And I'm not going to sit on my butt and do nothing. Because if I do that, I know I will not find her.
Well, that's the big thing, is sitting on your butt, doing nothing, waiting for her or him to come knock on your door.
Walk the middle path, people. Walk the middle path.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
I'm not saying you have to be at every activity, right? But at least like do something.
You're right, though. If you're going to do it, go dance.
Do it, right. Yeah. If you're going to go, give it your all.
Go have fun. Just go enjoy your life. But being in a hobbit hole somewhere, they're not going to come dig you up and find you. That's just not how it works.
So if I hear you correct, John, you're saying that quality over quantity. Like,
I think so. And just let the spirit guide you. Like I don't go to all the singles activity, but every once in a while there's a single activity and something just tells me just go. And I'll tell you that I always meet somebody. I don't obviously meet somebody I'm going to marry right now these days, but I always meet somebody who's either like a good business contact or just a really good friend or just someone that I know that I can text that person at 11 o'clock at night and they'll probably want to shoot the breeze with me for 30 minutes, or something like that. And that all of that to me is meaningful. And so is even the heartache, I guess, and that's why I asked the question about the lessons learned. I almost think it's easier to break up with somebody who liked you because, oh my gosh, they liked me. It wasn't because, I mean, in some ways, I'm not telling you have to feel that way, Ryan. They actually liked me. This wasn't an issue of, I'm not a good person, or I'm not attractive, or I'm not, this was an issue of our circumstances just did not allow it, and so that's not on either one of us. That's not because we're bad people, or because somebody's got a personality disorder, or because somebody, has a really rough history. That's just because the circumstances weren't right. I can see the pain of losing that too. I think I get that. But to me, there's also a joy in that.
Yeah.
And
I agree with that. Like I've told people before that I think that first relationship after my divorce was incredibly healing because of that.
I like
just
that.
Because I was with someone that she was attractive. She was attracted to me. It was fun. I don't know. We were compatible. It made me realize that there are people out there.
Yeah. She cared about you and she wanted it to work.
Yeah.
I think some relationships are for that, just to remind us that we're okay.
Yeah. And in those times where there are the obstacles that we can't work around or figure out, like you guys are saying, like those are the moments that we can still take that relationship, all the positives from it, what we've learned from it, and still better ourselves, even though it's tough to move on, I'm sure, but at least we can take with us what we've learned, and it can make us a better person, hopefully. But yeah, tough, super tough.
Yeah. And to John's point, I have seen a lot of people who are kind of just serial daters, right? And they're like, I'm going to date as many people as I can. I go out on a date like almost every night of the week, and I'm just dating.
I used to see one of them in the mirror every night. So, and I don't want to be that ever again. I'm so sorry to those that I did that with. That's not right.
It's kind of almost like you're not really looking for the right person. You're just looking for any person at that point. And
I mean, it's like you're checking human beings off a list, and it's just so, I don't know, looking back, it's rather demeaning in a way. It's almost like I didn't. Go ahead.
I was going to say, but some people argue that if you do that, then you're not being as judgmental, right? Because a lot of people are like, if you're very specific about who you date and you only choose a few and you ignore the rest, then you are being judgmental, and you're like judging us by our covers and blah, 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 like lots. Like people get really upset about that. So, it's funny that people can see both sides of the coin. Personally, I'm definitely more quality over quantity. That's just who I am. And I don't like to waste time on individuals, or I just don't see this going anywhere. Right. So
I agree with that, but sometimes you don't find that out till you're with them.
Right.
I'm going to go back to it. Walk the middle path.
Yeah.
There may be someone who doesn't seem to fit your criteria that would be really high quality. And there's somebody that may seem really high quality, and you feel like you wasted your time. And, I do think we got to come outside of, we just got to come outside of our prejudgments.
Yeah. Well,
that's why I think we got to follow the Spirit more.
I agree.
Let him guide you.
Yeah.
In the process.
I can speak for my own personal experience. After my divorce, I was just like, I don't know if I want to get married again. I don't know how that's going to work. I just know that, right now I've got some things for myself I feel like I need to take a little time and work on and all this stuff. And I don't know how it's going to go. But I mean, at the end of the day, I think we all want to be in a healthy, stable, happy relationship. That's just, if we weren't, we probably wouldn't be here. We probably wouldn't be on a podcast. We probably wouldn't be on dating apps or dating sites or on dating Facebook groups. But in the moment for me, I needed to step back and let Heavenly Father work out some of those details. And that's not to say I wasn't going to put myself out there, but I wasn't going to worry about it, right? Like, I'm not going to go to a dance, for example, and be like, okay, I'm looking around the room. There's nobody here. I'm just going to go and like, you know what? whatever. They've got like good refreshments. I'll kind of snack on the table for a little while. I'll hang out. There might be some fun music. I'm not much of a dancer, but whatever. It gives me something to do. And at least I'm not sitting at home alone, right? Especially on a New Year's Eve. Although there was a time when I was at a dance on a New Year's Eve and I'm like, I just can't do it tonight. And I just left early and just went home. I'm like, I just can't do it. But that was more me not being ready, right? So for me, I don't feel like I need to serial date, but I just feel like I need to go and enjoy my life. And like John said, whether it's at the grocery store or I don't know, maybe I'm skydiving and they come down and run into me or something. We have this thing to laugh at on the, I don't know if you'd be laughing at that point, whatever the case may be, right? One way or the other. I think if you're out there just enjoying your life, find things that you want to do and just do them and go be around people, not to necessarily find somebody, but to just not be home alone. I mean, your cats are probably great, but I'm sure they'll be okay for a night or two.
You're an extrovert. Me and Ryan obviously are introverts. We would prefer just to sit home.
I don't like sitting home. I'm out and about doing
I
things.
would. Me and my cats.
We definitely know Celeste isn't home watching movies. We've already established that. So.
I think of myself as an omnivert.
Ooh, that's a new word. What's that?
So that's the word I use to describe I'm fine with both. Like I actually like social interaction, but I'm at peace. I like solitude too.
Yeah.
Both of them kind of fill my tank in a different way. But
yeah, interesting.
I'm actually going to be teaching at like an event that involves a lot of singles, and I noticed that as people plan for that event, there's pressure to want to talk about dating. You know, let's have a roundtable on dating. Let's have a and I don't. That's not a bad topic per se. I just my own perspective on that is we need to be talking a lot more about psychology and relationships and things like that first. Because if I am not healthy, if I don't know how to manage my own thoughts and emotions, if I don't know how to interact with other people in a healthy way, you can tell me all the great ways to date and how to, do the right thing, say the right thing. And if anything, that just distracts, from what's really important. And that is, where are we personally? Where are we in our health, our emotional health? And in a way, I don't want someone to be a good dater and not be emotionally healthy. That's going to trick me into thinking, hey, she's a great dater. She must be really in a great place. It could be she's really in a horrible place. She's just a really good dater. And so I think it's great to be a good dater, to handle things the right way, to smell good and look good and say nice things. But in the end, what's underneath all that? Eventually we're going to get to it. And I'd rather not spend 3 months of my life getting to that. I'd rather get to it sooner.
That's kind of like when we become our own obstacle, right? So if we're not emotionally ready and emotionally stable to move on, say we're still dealing with past feelings or past relationships, or we don't want to trust people, whatever it is we're dealing with, if we aren't willing to, like you say, deal with those things first before we start into how do we date good, we're going to be like popping into the dating scene and we're going to be our own obstacle. We won't be able to get over it. We'll be like in our own way. So yeah,
I agree. Yeah. And it's like the title of a advertising book that I read one time, Trust Me, I'm Lying. In other words, if it's like PR, like I'm going to get really good at convincing you I'm healthy, even though I'm really not. And I don't think that's fair to people. I don't think it's fair to ourselves. If I know I'm not ready, I need to look in the mirror and just say, hey, it's okay. Take a time out, let's just pull it together. Or at least if I'm going to date, just tell people, hey, I'm still having a rough time. I've really been hurt, and so, just be patient with me and let's just get to know each other. And I think if we say that, I'm fine with it. I think that's a great, healthy way to go about it.
So Ryan, after those hard, difficult breakups you had, how did you know you were ready? How did you know that you were able to get past those obstacles of those breakups and are able now to be in a good place to move forward to try to find someone else? How do you recognize that in yourself?
I don't know. I'm not sure how to even answer that.
Because
I
think
think I'm
people struggle with that. They don't know how to, am I ready? I don't know. I still kind of like don't trust people. Like, is there anything we can look
oh
for?
yeah.
Or what do you look for? Or what would you tell someone who was coming to you saying, hey, I just came out of this relationship. Where do I need to be to move forward? What would you say?
Yeah, I think I had a little bit of that after the divorce because there was some bad things that happened in the divorce, right? Or trust things and trust issues. I think, and that still impacts me. I think even today that I don't want to be in a relationship with someone who's going to be dishonest or who's, I don't know. That's a major red flag for me now is any type of dishonesty.
Right.
But the most recent breakups, they weren't, like I said, they were good relationships. I don't know. I feel like I'm ready to still just date and try to find someone. And if I find someone else, then those two people missed out on being with me.
Yeah.
That's what I told them too. I was like, I told them both, like, I'd like to date you again if things work out, unless I'm already in another committed relationship. So,
Right.
I mean, if I get into another committed relationship, obviously I wouldn't
Well, let me ask kind of the same question in another way a little bit, but what kind of things did you do after your divorce to prepare yourself to be ready?
I don't know.
I mean, not to put you on the spot there, but I'll give you a kind of an example for myself, right? Like, and I've talked to Celeste forever about this, where I'm just like, I just kind of, I really had to step back and look for myself at what was it that was going to be good for me as a person? Like, what is going to fit me? I could go out there and date all kinds of people. And if I'm just dating, and then you find someone, you're like, oh, I like them. It's like throwing everything against the wall and seeing what sticks. That might not be what's best for me. So I had to go through and find out, like, what are the kind of things that are going to be a good balance in my life, right? Like, what are my weaknesses and what would be a good fit for some of those weaknesses? Like, where did we go wrong in my marriage? And where did that not like play out correctly, right? So I wanted somebody who was going to have certain criteria. And I spent a lot of time praying about it, fasting about it. And then I just kind of got this really peaceful feeling of like, just like we said, don't worry about it. Go out there and have fun and kind of let Heavenly Father work through a lot of those details. Like John said, wherever it's going to be at, let that just kind of play itself out and let things fall where they may. And don't worry about it. If you get into a relationship and it's not going to come together, I can't sit there and be like, oh man, I'm so bummed about that. To me, I'm just like, okay, well, I guess that wasn't the right one for me. That wasn't the right fit. So in my own life, I really had to do a lot of self-introspection because I can't go back and change the other person. Even if I was there, I couldn't change the other person. But I can certainly change my focus, change what I'm looking for, change my understanding, maybe my approach to how I'm looking. And all of those things were important to me. And it obviously, when you're in a spot where you've just come off of a hard relationship, there's a lot of people who are like, I want to fill that hole right now. I want to jump back into something immediately. And I don't think that's a good idea either. I mean, I'm sure John has seen this a million times where people just do a rebound relationship, maybe even a rebound marriage. And it's like, whoa, 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 whoa. Like, are you sure this is right? Right? Like, are you sure you're healed? Or is this just something that you're kind of getting into so that you feel better in the moment? Because feeling better in the moment might not equate to feeling better down the road. That might be a lot more heartache you're getting ready to heap onto yourself. So I had to take that step back and just say, come what may, I got to be happy. I'm kind of planning on the millennium here at this point. This was my thought process at the time. Let me just see where I go and let Heavenly Father take all of that. He's going to worry about it, not me. So what kind of things in your own life have you done to kind of go through and say, man, this is what I need to do to prepare, or this is what I'm looking for?
So bad answering questions. I don't know. Like when I first got divorced, I was focused more on my family, like my kids. And so that first year I was just working on trying to build a good relationship with my daughter that was living with me. The one that moved to Florida really didn't talk to me much for almost an entire year, 14 months, something like that. I couldn't get her to respond to phone calls or texts or anything. So, I was trying to focus on that relationship. And then once I finally got an iPhone, so then we were able to FaceTime. And since then we FaceTime almost every day. So it's been much better, but yeah, I mean, I don't stress a lot about relationships, I don't think, or getting into a relationship. I mean, I want to be in one and I'm active on the dating apps trying to find someone, but I don't know. I do things, I'm active, I have my hobbies that I do. And I guess ultimately, like I'm aware of what my strengths are for the most part. I'm aware of what my weaknesses are. If I were to start dating someone, I could let them know what my strengths are and what my weaknesses are. And if there's some deal breakers there, then it wouldn't work out or whatever. So I guess I'm not super concerned about becoming a different person or a better person. Like I feel like I'm decent and good the way I am, if that makes any sense. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, I always think of it like kind of like a Build-A-Bear. I take my kids there, right? Like if you had all the qualities out on the table and you had to construct what that right person for you looks like, and you had every quality, every personality, everything all out before you, would you know what the best construction for you would be? Does that make sense? Would you be able to build that person to meet what's going to be the right fit for you?
I think so. Yeah, I think I know what I'm looking for. And I know certain things that are deal breakers for me. So
see, I agree with that. I think that's the first of two steps, if you ask me. I like the idea of sort of having that Build-A-Bear, although I would say have a lot of wiggle room in there, because especially on things that are superficial,
right.
Because I just keep my mind, like when it comes to body types and hair colors and stuff like, dude, I don't even worry about that stuff. Like I don't care what package she comes in. I'm a lot more interested in like personal qualities. But the question I put that Build-A-Bear on one side of the table, and then I keep that in mind, but I look to the other side of the table and say, what would I look like? What would my Build-A-Bear look like that would be compatible with that? Because when it gets down to it, that's the only thing I can control, and I, like you said, Ryan, doesn't necessarily mean I'm becoming a better person. I think my spirit is already I feel like I'm a decent man, or maybe even a great man in many ways. But some of that needs to unfold still, though. I mean, I'm a work in progress. But I think the other thing is, hey, if I want these things in a partner, how much of that do I got going on with me? Like, and if I don't, I don't need to shame myself or like say, oh, I'll never measure up to the woman of my dreams. It's like, well, one, dream a little lower maybe, but the other part of it is, no, maybe you can do way more than you think. And if that dream can help me improve myself, even if I never find her in this life, it was worth it. It's like, I'm a better guy because I was shooting for that. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So that's the second part for me, is just, I want to be the kind of guy that when she sees me, she goes, oh, I like you. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm also a big believer that every relationship helps you grow. So a lot of people talk about, oh, that's so terrible that people are getting divorced. Well, I'd rather be divorced and have the children that I have and have the experience of being married than have been single my entire life. Like there's things I learned in that marriage and being a father, and that were growing experiences and good for me and helped me become a better person. So I think every relationship, even if it's eventually going to fail, I think there's good things that we can learn from those.
Okay, Garth Brooks is singing in my head The Last Dance or whatever that song is, where he's like, I wouldn't have missed this dance. I can't even think what it is. You know what I'm saying? You know what song I'm talking about?
I think I know what you're talking about.
In the song, he's saying like, I wouldn't have missed.
Unanswered prayers, isn't it?
Like, is it?
Or no?
The dance.
I know he's got that
song.
Oh, it's the dance.
It's called the dance. Yeah.
Dance. Okay, yeah. So he's saying I would have, even though this ended horribly and I've had all this pain and all of this suffering and whatever, and now we're broken up, I still would have did the dance. I still would have danced.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It was worth it. You know, even though it ended not good, it was still worth it. Okay, I totally annihilated that, but I think you guys kind of know what I'm trying to say there.
Exactly like that.
I so agree with that. I mean, obviously we've all been through heartache, but I think back, I mean, if I'm really honest with myself, there are some really beautiful things in those past relationships, you know? And yes, I can point to hurts inside of me related to those relationships. But when I think about it, there's also like a lot of confidence that came from, like, in different ways from different relationships. And like really, and not only just from the challenges they presented, they really were good to me in some ways at times, you know? And so just because it flamed out in the end, I got to remember all that too. So
yeah,
I never lose. I either win or I learn, right?
Yeah. So Ryan, if you had your druthers right now, I mean, do you feel like you're ready if the right person were to come along tomorrow? Or are you kind of like, you know, we'll just sort of see. Are you comfortable having a relationship that might be another 3, 4, 6 months and not work out again? Are you okay with that? Or are you like, nah, I'd rather just not?
No, I'd have to be okay with that if I ever want to have a relationship again. So yeah, I feel like I'm okay with that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I think there's a lot of people who would just rather avoid the pain and, you know, just maybe do kind of the serial dating sort of thing. And to be honest, if I'm kind of looking at a lot of people that I've known from these dating groups and going out to a lot of the activities, I see a lot of people who don't really take the time that we're talking about to find out. And I know a lot of them really, really want to be married. And I've talked to some of them, just, it's like a depression thing for them, right? Like, I just can't seem to find anybody. And you kind of hear the Eeyore routine after a while. Woe is me, and I'm trying, and it's just not working out. And why isn't Heavenly Father bringing somebody into my life? And I'm like, well, are you really doing the right things to attract the right person? Because we're always attracting somebody, whether it's the right person or the wrong person. We're kind of a magnet one way or the other. And I just see these guys popping in and out of relationships, not always marriages, some of them marriages, and they're kind of the serial marriage, dater, divorce thing. And they've never quite figured out, take the time, figure out you, find out what's going to be best for you, what you're looking for. And like John said, you know, that superficial stuff, I always think it's weird when people get on there and they're like, okay, do you like blondes or brunettes better? Like, I don't know. I like her. When she comes along, then I'll like her, whatever that looks like. I don't know.
Yep.
I mean, do you like blondes or brunettes? Yes. I like them both, right? So it's just a tough thing. But being in a spot where you are now and trying to figure it out, I think at least, even though you're kind of dating not like every day of the week, I think your approach is better than somebody who's out. I did 5 dates in 5 days this week, and you know, all of them were kind of fun, but I don't think any of those guys have a clue what they're really looking for. They're just looking. It's like going to a store and browsing around until you find something. You're like, oh, I'll just take that, instead of going to a store with a specific idea in mind of what you need. So yeah. So now, one other thing I wanted to say, I mean, we keep talking about this quite a bit, but those dating apps, Ryan, we got to talk, man, because those things, I mean, probably half the people you're talking to are catfish. So
yeah, trust me, I'm lying.
I don't talk to a lot of people on them, but yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I think for the younger
some of them
crowd,
are better than others. And hey, there's always going to be a couple of real great ones on one of those sites, no doubt.
well, that's like saying you show up to a dance and eventually some really great one's going to show up too,
Yes,
right?
out of those 50 women, at least two. No, actually, the dance might be you might have a better shot at it, but I don't know.
Law of averages, right?
Yeah.
As far as the dating apps, I think the women have to deal with a lot more catfishing than the men do.
Oh,
And
yeah.
the men ones are so obvious that you wouldn't even swipe on it anyway. So the ones that we have to deal with, the female profiles that are fake.
So here's a question. Where do we go to find or meet amazing men? So, and probably the same thing. Where do you go to find and meet amazing women? I mean, I'm in Portland, Celeste is in Dallas. I know people on the East Coast, people in Canada. And the thing is, that's kind of one good positive thing that came out of COVID is that it brought a lot of virtual connectivity going on. There's lots of virtual activities. There's virtual, I mean, people do virtual dating now. That's a thing. Watch parties on stuff. There's all different kinds of ways, but the apps and kind of looking for people in your area, I've gone through there and I'm like, this looks like a picture that somebody like stole off the internet somewhere. I'm pretty sure this person isn't real. I don't have any faith in those of ever going anywhere. So
or they're real.
I know there are some people that make it work.
Yeah,
well, they're like Ryan, and then people steal his pictures and give him fake names.
So creepy. So like I said, my first relationship that I had was off the app. I met her on Match.com, and she sent me a message. And the second one, my friend had told me, it's a friend of my friend's, and he had told me that she was interested in maybe dating me, or that he wanted us to date. But then she got into that other relationship. But then I saw her on the apps, and I messaged my friend, hey, I saw her on the apps the other day. And then they set us up after that, if that makes sense. So the apps have been, I mean, I've met two people that I dated on them, so.
Yeah.
I mean, they work sometime. I think I'm more on it, not on them just because I'm so busy with what's going on in my life kind of stuff, like you said, Ryan, the time is precious, and it's almost like I want to date, but I don't want to waste my time finding who to date.
Yeah.
Like that almost takes longer than the dating.
100%.
It can. I didn't like the apps. I only had mutual. It's the only one I tried, and I didn't like the swipe because I felt bad. I'm like, I don't even know who this person is, but I'm just gonna
yeah, but he's got a big schnoz, and so
it was I felt really horrible about that. But I do like the Facebook pages because at least that way you can interact with people a little bit more. You can
that's true.
See what they're doing, see what they're saying. You can chit chat, whatever. Like, I don't know, the whole swiping thing, that just wasn't for me. So I didn't last long on Mutual. It wasn't for me.
Yeah.
I've met one other person through the Facebook groups, and she's going to move down here to Utah in a few weeks, and I'll probably go out with her when she moves here.
Nice.
At least at first 1 or 2 dates, right?
Yeah.
There's always the activities that are going on. I know there was groups that were getting together off of Facebook and Marco Polo for a while. They were doing cruises, like LDS singles cruises. So they'd all get together and kind of coordinate and plan this big trip together. And that was a lot of fun. They have like the Boise Bash, things like that. And people who live in Midwest or Florida or, on the East Coast, they'll fly in for these events all the time, spend a weekend or something, meet all kinds of new people. There's a lot of things that are going on. And I think there's one down there close to Celeste, but I want to say it's maybe it's in Arkansas or something, right? Or Louisiana. I don't know, something. But it was like a big kind of group that's
where's the big singles party in Texas, Celeste?
I'm trying to think. I know they did they did some hot springs up in Arkansas.
Okay,
I don't
Arkansas, that's what it was.
Yeah, and I know they did some tubing thing down Schlitterbahn area. I just haven't gone to any of that stuff. I only did volleyball. That was the extent of my singles activities.
Utah, it's pickleball.
They do a lot of pickleball here too.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It's like the older guys. Okay, my age guys, boards that are married. I'll go play pickleball.
That's so weird. I used to always see like these super old people out there playing pickleball over at like the school when I was younger. I'm like, man, if I ever get to a point in life where I play pickleball, it's all over. Like that's when I'll be like moving from the pickleball court into the bingo parlor and having pudding for my dinner snack,
All three sound like great things
with
to make.
raisins in it.
Ew.
Oh yeah, no. Yeah.
I actually like that stuff.
You like pudding with raisins?
I like rice pudding with raisins.
Oh no. I'm guessing you like oatmeal.
I like just about anything,
Hey, you put raisins in my oatmeal cookie and I'm a happy lady.
See, there you go. It sometimes it's just the right thing. Sometimes it's not. I don't like
or an oatmeal.
Raisins and everything.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it in oatmeal.
Oh yeah, oatmeal, throw them on in.
Yeah.
I've said it before and I'll say it again. When you are sent and condemned to outer darkness, the only thing there left to eat that you'll be served for eternity will be oatmeal raisin cookies. That is your punishment for time and all eternity. They're that evil.
So
it is
happy.
nasty.
Like, bring it on.
Yeah, me and Celeste will be hanging in outer darkness, eating.
We'll be like loving our life in outer darkness and our cookies.
Right. When the Lord says you don't know the misery and the punishment, like the eternal, it's because you haven't seen the platter of oatmeal raisin cookies that will be served to you.
Whatever.
Eternally. And when you're tired of them, they're like, well, what's next? More oatmeal raisin cookies. Like, okay, you're stuck. This is truly hell. So,
well.
Hey, at least we'll be able to boss Satan around there, That'll be kind of fun.
Right.
He'll say, can I have some pudding? Dude, you don't even have a body. Shut up.
That's right. You can't even.
You can eat your oatmeal raisin cookie in front of him.
Or for me and John, not you, Satan. So step aside.
Yeah.
Right. So Ryan, you've got lots of
we got off the tracks there a little bit.
Yeah. Once we start getting into oatmeal raisin cookies, I got to make my
and like eating pudding in outer darkness. Yeah, that's
Yes. So, I mean, have you been on any of the groups? Have you seen any of these activities going on for like the cruises, the lava hot springs, not lava hot springs? If someone tells you they're going to go to lava hot springs, don't go. They're not the right person for you anyways. They'll be filled with weirdos. Just stay away. They can't pronounce it right. It's not worth it. Have you seen any of these activities though?
There's a lady that messaged me through, I don't know, something, and she invited me to a group on Facebook where they do ton of activities. And so, like I said, I see them, and at some point I'm probably going to go to some of them, but I haven't yet. So
what holds you back?
Just time and wanting to do other things. And I'm also not a very good planner, which actually gets in the way of dating sometimes too, where I don't make plans. I almost always just decide spur of the moment what I want to do. So that makes it a little bit harder to date as well, right?
Yeah, we're gonna have to talk, Ryan. I have to coach you a little bit, bro.
Yep.
Right. Spontaneity is like key.
I like spontaneity. So I always have everything like in my car, I have everything I need to fly fish, to metal detect, to take pictures. I always have everything. So if I'm in a certain area and I feel like going and doing something, I go do it,
Nice.
I don't plan enough, and I need to start planning more.
Well, I think I'm a lot like John, where I'm kind of omniverted. I think that was the term you used, right?
Yeah, omnivert. I'm an omnivert.
So
omniverted. Yeah, I guess that worked.
I have my times where I like to be extroverted and I like to have people around. And there's times where I'm like, I just want to go stretch out on the couch and pretend like I'm going to watch a movie before I fall asleep after 5 minutes. Mm-hmm. So that's what I'm talking about. So I like to have my downtime and alone time, but then I'm also like you, Ryan, during the day, like my job, I'm driving around, I'm going and talking with other people, but like, I don't interact with other people from my work. I don't have like a consistent sort of thing where I'm like there all day in an office with somebody else. So it's a really different thing, but for me, I have to have that. Maybe it's a balance. Maybe omnivert is a balance. I don't know, because I feel like I get to a point where I'm like, okay, I've had too much downtime and I feel like I need some people and I need to be around people. And then I'm around people for a while. I'm like, okay, now I need some downtime. Like, I feel like it's just sort of this, not necessarily like a yin and yang, but I just need kind of different.
It's kind of that secure attachment stuff. It's like, I'm not anxious to be with people. I'm not avoidant of people. I just like both. And that can be really healthy in a relationship. I actually look for that in women, you know, just, are you okay if we're a couple days apart? Are you okay if we're close, you know, and can we, you know, kind of move in and out of both, you know?
Yeah.
When I was in grad school, we used to take the personality inventories as we were learning them. And there's a personality inventory out there for like normal personality to see how it stacks up to other people that are considered normal. And it's called the NEO PIR. And so when I took that, it measures you on like neurosis, on extrovert versus introvert, on how open you are to experiences and how closed you are to experiences. Like how, I can't think of the other word, but how much you're detail oriented versus not detail oriented and things like that. And I spiked really high on a gregarious subscale. All the other things on that scale that were extrovert related were really low. And so that's when I looked up that word. And gregarious doesn't mean outgoing. It means someone who likes to be around other people. So I'm a fairly introverted person, but I enjoy being with people and doing things with people, but not just random people, but people that I'm going to have a relationship with. Like, I don't like just hanging out with strangers. To me, that's not fun. But to hang out with someone who's going to be a friend or could become a friend or something, that to me is meaningful. So, so I'd love to be around people, but I'm not necessarily super outgoing. So,
have you taken one of the like Myers-Briggs personality tests?
Yeah, I just took it again, and mine's changed in the last 20 years. So,
I kind of have a feeling like we all change over time. I could be wrong about that, but I just get the feeling like we don't.
I think life experiences change us too. Wouldn't you say that, Ryan?
Yeah, I think so. Like, I went from an ISTJ to an ISTP, and I think it's just because I have a lot more hobbies that get me more outgoing outside of my, I don't know. Like, I have to take risks. Like, if I'm doing photo shoots with people that I don't know, like I have to go out and meet people and contact them and set things up, you know. Or like, I've met a lot of people through my metal detecting hobby, or like fly fishing. I mean, the things I do, I'm a lot more, I don't know, I get more involved with other people now, I think, through my hobbies than I used to when I was younger.
Yeah.
So it's almost like as you get accustomed to that, it's almost like, I mean, we know neuroplasticity that you can literally rewire a little bit, and yeah, you can get to where you know, something you didn't like before, you actually dig it.
Yeah. So Ryan, one thing I'm kind of curious about, when you're going through the court systems and you're kind of doing evals on people, do you dig into, I'm assuming you would probably dig into kind of like their past life, like what brought you here? Like, all right, were you orphaned, or kind of were you abused as a kid or something like that? I don't know how much digging you do on that sort of a level, but I would kind of wonder if there's some sort of commonality that you might see to people who are struggling in relationships versus, like, you know, does that make sense what I'm trying to say? Like, maybe they had unstable homes and they had really bad relationship things, and it sort of leads down that type of a road.
Yeah, and so I don't go into a lot of details like that with people, unless I'm doing like the substance abuse centers. I go into a lot more detail about their past history for those evals. But for the competency evals, and obviously the special ed evals, I don't delve into that very often. But I think understanding your attachment style is critical if you're going to be dating. Like, I know that I'm a secure attacher, but I'm also somewhat anxious. Like, I lean towards anxious attachment, but I'm secure leaning towards anxious. And the relationship I had that was a year long, she's secure, but she leans towards avoidant. And so that caused a lot of stress during the relationship, where maybe I'm trying to attach too much and then she's pulling away, kind of stuff. And that's a very bad combination for avoidant attachers to be with an anxious attacher, because
oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, is there like a test to take for that? I just saw someone asking, how do you figure that out?
Yeah, what are the attachment styles and how do you know what they are?
That's a good question. I know there's anxious attachment, avoidant attachment, secure attachment. And then I think there's combinations like anxious avoidant for like the real weird stalker type people.
They call that fearful attachment. So I work with a lot with attachment, because just because we work with couples and parenting situations. And so I do work that involves healing attachment wounds. And so, I mean, in short, kind of helping, especially that fearful attachment. I would say 3 to 5% of the population is sort of in that. It's kind of like it's like saying, I hate you, don't leave me kind of mentality. Kind of, I'm going to push you away, but then pull you back in. And so it can be really confusing for partners.
Yeah.
And that can be devastating. You see that a lot in like borderline personality disorder, for example. And sometimes with narcissism, although not quite as much. But narcissism can be either or, but it tends to be either or. Borderline can just be all over the place.
And then I was gonna say attachment, like you have like a reactive attachment, like if a kid who's been through a lot of abuse from a parent figure, or like kids who get adopted or who are in lots of foster cares and then finally get adopted by a parent, they have a really hard time forming an attachment with the parent in some of those situations.
Mm-hmm.
And they do a lot of the completely pushing people away and doing things to see if they will still love them despite all their negative behaviors, which is kind of a weird way to do things, but it happens all the time with kids who are dealing with attachment issues.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, we saw it a lot with adopted kids.
mm-hmm. But I'm sure that goes into adulthood as well. So
are there certain attachment styles that like this matches up with this one? These two are like toxic. I mean, this sounds like a Myers-Briggs sort of thing where you're trying to figure out, what works good, what doesn't work good together.
Secure works with secure.
Yeah, well, secures can attach with about anyone, though, I think.
Yeah, they can adjust.
Yeah, a secure attacher can deal with an avoidant attacher and an anxious attacher, but avoidant and anxious do not go well together, and that causes so much stress in the relationships.
You know what I heard? I heard that 2 avoidants are the fastest to break up. Isn't that funny? Like they say they want their own space, but they hate somebody not chasing them and trying to be with them. Mm-hmm. Meaning they really don't want to be alone.
It makes sense, kind of.
I feel like this is like a whole podcast that we should be having in one, because I don't know much about these attachment styles at all.
We're on the final 10 minutes, but it makes sense because it's like, I have to think that the reason that they're avoidant is because there's a core there that really wants someone to embrace them, but they're being like a prickly bear, like, no, I'm going to push you away. Kind of like what Ryan was saying on how many times can I push you away before you finally leave? Whereas it's almost like something they've put up to avoid the attachment, where in all actuality they probably want it at some point. So yeah, I can see that.
I also think we kind of, like we were talking before, you respond in the opposite way to what the other one is. Meaning, I find that people in relationships with avoidant people tend to become more anxious, and people with more anxious people tend to become more avoidant. I've seen that in my own relationships, and that makes sense to me. If someone's chasing me, I tend to run. If I'm chasing them, they tend to run. And
so then
what makes somebody anxious? Sorry, go ahead.
Ryan can answer.
I was just saying, what's the secure? You don't care? Like, you're just like, I'm good.
No, secure is comfortable with both closeness and distance.
Oh, okay.
Meaning, I'm at peace. If you need your space and you need some time alone, I don't feel abandoned by you if you do that. Okay. But if you want to be close, I don't feel kind of like cornered or overwhelmed by that either. So it's like an omnivert, it's just kind of,
omnivert.
Yeah, I'm comfortable.
It's like the new word.
That's right. It's omniverted attachment style. That's the new name for it.
It's the middle ground, people.
That's right.
Groundbreaking tonight here on the podcast. Right. Omnivert attachment style.
If you want to learn about it, John has a big conference coming up here soon. You can learn all about it.
Oh right. Yeah, maybe I'll do a presentation on that.
You should, absolutely.
Heck yeah. Let's go.
Yeah.
But Ryan, once you say they've been hurt somehow, and then they choose, it's almost like they drift into an attachment style as a sort of a way of responding to that pain of something that's hurt them in the past. And for some people, especially if they feel a sense of inadequacy, they literally drift away from people. And others with that sense of inadequacy might chase after people. Love me. they're all hurt. I mean, we're all hurt in one way or another. Some people are just able to stay secure, despite all that.
I think it does, like you said, it does depend on the relationship. Like if I'm in a relationship with someone who has a secure attachment style, it's very easy to be secure with them. But like I said, the last one, she leaned towards avoidant, and that brought out kind of the anxiety, like I don't know, that she didn't seem to, I don't know, didn't reach out as much as I would have liked her to reach out, if that makes sense.
I mean, if you understand it and you know what your partner is, it makes it easier to not take that personally and to realize it's just hard for them to do one of the two.
Yeah. Same with love languages, just understand what they are.
Right.
So what about somebody who's been like, who maybe has like abandonment issues or something like that? Is that going to be more of what kind of attachment style is that going to be?
It depends, like John said.
It could go either way.
Yeah. So like reactive attachment disorder, there's two types of it. There's the ones that are super clingy and will go up to strangers and hug them and sit on their laps and try to get love from strangers. And then there's some that completely withdraw and won't attach to anybody. So it's the same with adults, I think.
So do you believe that, and this is totally random, but do you believe that like kids can be born with RAD? Because I have a friend who has supposedly from trauma within the womb, she was born with that and she struggled from almost day one. I don't know. Maybe that's the truth, but I've always tried like I can't wrap my brain around that, but that's what they claim she has, and that she's had like from day one practically. She can't attach to anybody because of trauma in the womb.
I'd be wondering more if she's on the autism spectrum or something like that.
Right.
I don't know.
Right.
I don't know anything about that, but I'm skeptical of that.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of odd, but I don't know anything about it, so I was just like, oh, okay, that's.
I mean, I think we at some level remember experiences in the womb. So I almost want to say that life probably starts sometime in there. I don't know when a spirit joins a body, kind of thing. But but yeah, I would imagine trauma in the womb can probably follow us into life and throughout a life,
conscious manner.
I don't know if it would affect us that way per se, but it's kind of it's like a betrayal. Like I feel like I was not safe in a place where I was supposed to be safe.
Yeah.
And so that makes sense.
And she was the little girl was adopted at birth, though. I don't know what the trauma was.
Well, I would say that probably had more to do with it, to be honest.
And
I mean, have you found, Ryan, that if they don't get to attach with that birth parent, or like if there's not an immediate opportunity for closeness, that's where we start messing with?
Well, they were there at the birth.
Attachment.
She was there at the birth of the baby, so she's had her been there day one. I don't know. It's just interesting. They claim it's child in womb trauma that the baby.
Maybe.
Was there substance abuse with the birth mom during the pregnancy?
I don't really know. I mean, I could probably ask her, but it's just I've been following her. Her girl is probably I don't know, about the same age as my twin. She's probably like 10 or 11 now. And I've been kind of watching this whole progress and just what they go through and the schools they're trying to put the kid in and their kid in and stuff, just because she just will not allow them to love her. She just is like,
definitely sounds like reactive,
and they've had her since day one. So, I mean, I've got 2 adopted children. I had them since day 2. They don't have that, but so, I mean, I know everybody kind of deals with things differently, but it just seems different. Like, I don't know. It's just anyway, just question that I'd ask.
Out of my realm of expertise.
A distinct majority don't struggle with it, but a higher percentage of adopted kids do.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions and stuff that go into adoption, so I get that.
Interesting.
It definitely affects dating, though. And the thing I've noticed, especially with couples I work with, is there's something about falling in love that can kind of override your attachment style. It's almost like avoidance can be super loving and tender, and anxious can be totally, oh honey, go and spend time with your guy friends, and yeah, that's totally fine, and I don't feel any abandonment. And then like 6 months in, it's like, uh-oh, we're in trouble.
It was too much, huh?
When the love juices, like are gone.
In season
Yeah,
4.
I think we go back to old patterns. So,
and this all brings up kind of the whole point of everything. Like, I feel like there's so many variables where you have to match on or match up with, and it just makes things difficult to find the exact right match for you. You know, it's kind of like a key and a lock. Those things have to match it just right to turn to make it work. And so there's just so many things to consider in a relationship. Some are important, some are less important.
And they're moving targets because we're human and we change.
And people are in and out of relationships too. Like, you know, maybe you're available when the other person's in a relationship, and then when you get into a relationship and the other person's available and you're not, kind of a thing, you know. So.
Well, we talked a little bit about timing last podcast on that, and I do believe that if we're kind of doing the right things and putting ourselves out there and sort of just staying that path, that, you know, look, Heavenly Father's put us all down here to be in families one way or the other. And whether that happens now or down the road, we don't know. But he's not going to leave us hanging when it's right if we're doing the right things, right? We put ourselves out there and just kind of put ourselves in a position where we can be blessed. And when the blessing is ready, then he will bring it to us. So, and I don't know what, I think ready probably is different for each of us. I mean, I would imagine if you had somebody who's sitting in jail somewhere, then they probably aren't quite ready for this really great long-term relationship, right? But, you know, that's maybe an extreme example, but I had a guy, and take this for what it's worth, you know, he was a member of he was singles ward bishop for a while, high councilman for a long time, just a great guy, super spiritual. And he told me a story one time of a guy that he was, I think it was someone that he knew from his days as a bishop, if I'm not mistaken. But he was working with this guy because he was a singles ward bishop. And the guy was like, you know, I was at a family ward and this lady walked in and I just felt strongly the Spirit tell me that's your wife. And then her husband walks in and he's like, what? Wait, that doesn't make any sense. Like, that's totally weird. And so he's kind of like, all right, okay. And he's like, but I just felt it strongly. And then here, like, I think it was maybe a year later or something like that, that lady and the guy had gone through a divorce. And then 6 months down the road or something, he had like met her post-divorce and they had started dating. But he kind of had that initial prompting. Of course, he's not going to go act on it. Like, hey, you're married. Like, hey, I think I'm supposed to be married to you, not this guy. Like, that would be totally off the rocker. But the point being that if that was truly the Spirit speaking to him at the time, clearly she wasn't ready yet, right? But let's say he had gotten to a point where he's like, well, I felt prompted, but then I decided to go start sleeping around with a bunch of girls. And so I knocked myself out of being ready. Then that wouldn't have worked out too. So you've got to kind of just hold the path, hold on to the rod, and let Heavenly Father work out the details and kind of tell you when things are going to be right. And he knows, he sees the full picture. We only have our blinders on and see what's right in front of us. But that's a hard thing to do sometimes when you're like, I'd like somebody now. Mm-hmm. But I think that's where that security plays in of like, I'm okay being me in the moment instead of I'm desperate and I need somebody to fill a hole to somehow complete me. So that's why I hate that movie, Jerry Maguire, like, you complete me. Like, you know what? You should probably complete yourself. And then, like, you know, let him fill in some extra love on top of that. But I don't know. That's just my own personal thing. So
what's Jerry Maguire?
Jerry Maguire. Yeah.
I'm just kidding. I'm trying to be Celeste.
Oh.
That was not funny. Like, I've seen Jerry Maguire. That was actually one of the movies I saw like 25
movie deprivation.
Yeah.
So
cinematic anorexia. That's my official diagnosis.
All right, very cool. Hey, I've seen a lot of good movies multiple times, but I haven't seen every movie.
Oh yeah, that's a whole different disorder.
It is actually
every movie. Okay, Celeste, you haven't even seen
cinematic impulsivity.
It is. I haven't seen what?
Beetlejuice. I mean, some of these, like, it's one thing to say, like, okay, I haven't
That's a
seen
classic.
this off the wall movie, but like the ones that are like everybody's seen that. Have you even seen Back to the Future?
Of course, I've seen Back to the Future.
Oh, you act like that's a weird question. You haven't seen
but who has not seen Hamilton?
Probably half the people that I know.
I've seen
Ryan.
I've heard it. I've listened to the soundtrack.
Oh my gosh, John, have you seen Hamilton?
I am a musical freak, so I've seen everything.
That is a dang good play.
It is a very creative and very powerful play.
I think it's
my favorite part is King George.
I know. I'm like,
boy, that dude had a set of pipes.
I also like Jefferson. I'm like, I don't know.
Oh yeah, they all are gifted. Yeah, but yeah, I like it.
Anyway, all right.
Well, not to get off topic too much, but we're kind of out of time here. So Ryan, I just want to say thanks for being on. I don't know that we have solved all your dating woes tonight, but I think you've got your head screwed on straight. I think you've got a good perspective on things. It doesn't sound like you're overly anxious to jump into something that's going to be a disaster. Like, I just need to have somebody now because my cats aren't cutting it. So I think that's a good thing.
I think so too.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
I have a good feeling about you, Ryan.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even though you're in the mental health profession, right, Everett? Because,
hey, I'm a basket case. Like, if I just got cracked open, you guys would have a heyday. Like, oh man, look at this. So
my first time on this show, Ryan reminded me, that people who go into mental health are the ones who need it most, kind of thing. So
some people say.
Yeah. Although you and I have probably both met people that
fit that bill.
Make it fit the bill, so to speak.
I think that's the master's level people.
What? No, I'm master's level, but with a PhD, so I'm only half crazy.
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
you were crazy for a while till you graduated with a PhD, right?
Yeah, and now I'm perfectly sane, and there's nothing wrong with me.
There you go.
I'm like Ryan now.
Right. So
I was just joking, but
yeah.
I sensed that.
Well, Ryan, thank you so much for being on. It wasn't as nerve-wracking as you thought it would be, was it?
No, it wasn't bad.
No, and the nice thing is the bulk of our audience is always on Facebook, so you don't really even get to see a lot of the people in the chat room because a lot of people are just sort of watching on Facebook and they're not interacting until like the after party show. Then some people like hop on and want to like chit chat with that. So this is the part of the show where we actually just say, thank you for being on. I really appreciate it. And we turn it off on Facebook. And you've been to these before, right? Where we kind of have the after party afterwards.
I've only seen parts of them because I'm busy, but yeah.
Okay.
But I'm gonna start watching more of them because they're fun.
Yeah, they are. They kind of go a little long, and that's my fault. I need to get in there and do a little video editing and split them up and kind of make them more kind of topic segmented, but just a matter of hours in the day, right? So the after party is essentially the part where we stop the live recording and stop the live on Facebook, and then we just allow everybody to turn on their microphones, and it's just kind of an open forum. So let me go ahead and stop.